Dark Matter's that end goal for multiplayer camo grinders that this year introduced a few different twists to it, including, but not limited to, the fact that we have Dark Matter challenges per weapon now this year, instead of one instantaneous unlock when you complete all Dark Spine challenges. But while this grind can be absolutely tedious, it's more of just that than anything else. It's not really super challenging, but today I want to take some time to put together a comprehensive guide on the best ways to manage this challenge in as efficient a manner as possible, and hopefully to give you some tips for some of the frustrating challenges out there. So drop your thoughts as we go along. Where are you at in your Dark Matter grind? Any tip that you'd like to add to this list, feel free to drop it down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Also, do let me know if you want to see some Nebula guides in the future. Let's say like 3,000 likes and we can maybe jump in on that. I'll probably take a little bit of time to recoup here, then dive into the zombies grind in a bit, but let me know. As well, make sure to subscribe for more guides, tutorials, tips, and general coverage of all things Black Ops 6 and additional FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community as we chase down 600,000 subscribers. But for now, let's get into it. So, of course, the first thing on the road to Dark Matter as a comprehensive guide here is headshots. The most easy way to say, hey, get more headshots is to aim higher, but honestly, that doesn't really do anybody any good in terms of actual tips. While the premise is very simple, very tedious, what I'd say to expedite this process is to play hardcore face-off. That was at least my preferred method. Though, of course, you can do anything hardcore because you don't have to hit multiple headshots most of the time, but hardcore face-off to me was the best way because it offered more engagements and a faster pace of play. You had shorter match lengths, which is good for turnover time, getting more matches done in a shorter overall time frame, and then the map sets were good for basically every engagement type. Stakeout and Pit were really good for close quarters, great for SMGs, shotguns, pistols, and ARs, and then Warhead and Gala were longer range, which allowed you to utilize distance for an advantage on those things that won't shred as much up close, or could be outclassed by something that has a faster fire rate. ARs again fit that category, that interchangeable with all of them, LMGs, and marksmans. Noticeably absent are snipers. I wouldn't recommend doing this in hardcore face-off. I'd instead go to standard core face-off, where you're not getting domed by a pistol across the map, and you can get those shots off a bit quicker. Again, more engagements, but a little bit more health to work with. For this in particular, I'd recommend putting on a red dot of some kind for additional ADS speeds, but then also no cumbersome scope size that takes up your peripheral vision. And additionally, talking attachments for overall weapons, for closer quarters engagements like an SMG, shotgun, or something of the like, I would recommend something of like a red dot just to give you a bit more precision so you know where your shots are going to be landing at all times. But for longer range focused combat, I'd recommend a 2 to 4 times optic. The Jason Armory 2 times is my preferred because even that base optic crosshair is great and very pinpoint precise that you don't have to work your way up to anything in particular to have a good optic to begin with. Plus, the 2 to 4 times optic as a base optic will decrease that visual recoil and give a feeling of a bit more control, which, especially when mixed with the ability to pinpoint where your shot is going when you're aimed at the head, is a very huge benefit to have, I think. But of course, that's your basic stuff with headshots. The special challenges is where it gets a little bit interesting because not everything is going to have the same challenges, but there is a lot of crossover where you will start to see some of these in multiple weapon categories and challenge sets. The grenade launcher attachments, this being for the AK-74 and the Goblin, this is one that's interesting because the description only says to get 20 kills with the underbarrel launcher attached to the Goblin Mark II or the AK. But it's weird because it seems like all you have to do is have it attached, but you actually have to get the kills from there as well. So this is one of those things that you have to go in consciously trying to use that. The nice part is there's no splash damage to you whenever you do this, so you can end up just point blanking people in things like Stakeout. Longshots are another one that is a super tedious and also map dependent thing that you can work on here, where thankfully, unlike prior years, it's only necessary for 3 weapons: the LR762, DM10, and the Sarkov. So a sniper and then 2 marksman rifles. So it's not necessarily the end of the world, but still can be annoying if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. It seems the long shot range ends up starting at 38.2 meters. An oddly specific number. 38 meters exactly isn't quite there, but 38.2 appears to be. In-game, if you're on target with somebody that's moving or you're in a in-game scenario, that sort of half-meter discrepancy isn't something you're going to notice anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And then snipers end up coming out to, again, oddly 50.8 meters exactly. So that's one of those things that, again, Really weird that they just don't round down or round up to 38 or 39 or 50 or 51 respectively, but just know that those are your magic numbers. On screen, you'll have been seeing some examples of where those are in regards to the various different maps within Black Ops 6, both 6v6 and Warhead for face-off. The only outlier I think that didn't have a sort of sniper long shot location was that of Payback, as odd as it is because it's not the smallest map in the game, but the way that everything is set up, there's just not long enough lines of sight. So long shots can be tedious, absolutely, but on the opposite side of things, what about point blanks? That is something that only registers around 1 to 2 meters from the player. So even if you feel like you're close, you might not actually be close enough. I think that it might actually be just around 1 meter. It seemed inconsistent in my testing, but for this, the one in particular that I think a lot of people are going to have an issue with, but the tip actually still applies to everything in regards to this challenge, is the LMGs. The LMGs in particular to get point blanks on, that being the GPMG, incredibly frustrating because you have this big clunky LMG and you have to end up getting right next to the enemy. The best idea for this, as well as all the other weapons that require this challenge, is to kit the weapon out for hip fire and then slide to fire attributes. I found that hardcore face-off on the small maps really did help out because you're always in the action. It's a lot more claustrophobic on things like stakeout, where you can slide and basically always run into a player. You're gonna die a lot, but you're at least going to have the ability to get close to an enemy and give yourself a chance, versus if you were trying to sneak up on an enemy and they turn around on you and kill you. So that's one of those things that if you want to do it while you're just playing and go for it as it happens, you end up getting close to somebody, yeah, you can do whatever map you want. But if you're trying to get it done and out of the way quickly, hardcore face-off is absolutely the way I think. And then get 15 kills shortly after switching weapons. That was another one that was quite annoying, especially on the baseball bat. The big thing that you want to go for is the hot swap medal. If you see the hot swap medal, it should count. That appears to work, but again, on a situational basis where it's not super consistent. Like sometimes I noticed I'd get it if I swapped weapons and then it took a second to end up getting that kill. But then other times I'd have to do it like immediately after switching to the weapon, in that sort of 1 second window. The baseball bat in particular, while it's going to be a pain and you're going to die a lot, I would highly recommend doing this in hardcore face-off because it is only a one-shot kill at that point. Your other weapons that this is required on, you don't necessarily need to do it there. It can help, I think, but it's not necessary per se. Now that's the special challenges, but what about specific weapons? The ones that I've seen a lot of people having issues with are the launchers, and more so in particular the HE1, the RPG that does not have any lock-on capabilities. Now, the big things that are kind of annoying with these are the gold and dark spine challenges. The military challenges, the diamond challenges, and the dark matter challenges are all just kill oriented, which all you got to do for that is just go into hardcore face-off and just keep spamming launchers. It's annoying, but it is something that will end up getting you those kills in no time. So that isn't anything that I'd say necessarily needs any direction or anything, but the gold and dark spine challenges require both 3 streaks in a match 5 times and 5 streaks in a match 5 times. So these challenges are both maddening because unlike most of the challenges out there, it requires a reliance on other players, not your own skill or not your own mastery. So half the battle is finding lobbies where you can get streaked out on, which creates this sort of own conundrum in and of itself. Because eventually if you keep tanking your stats, you keep trying to feed enemy streaks, you'll end up dropping matchmaking elo to the point where your lobbies will have players that don't get or even forget they have streaks if they do get them. So as your matchmaking drops you lower and lower in these brackets, it becomes hard. So you might have to eventually just go hard and try and get yourself into a sweaty lobby to end up having it happen. So that's half the battle. But if you find yourself a match where players are calling in UAVs and counter UAVs above all else, that's your golden ticket. Obviously, it's hard to hit aerial streaks with these things like the HE1, but they were and still currently are counting as 2 streak destroys per match. So I would imagine this has changed in the future, but for at least the time being, as of recording this, 1 UAV or 1 counter UAV will count as 2 streaks towards that. So if you're on gold, you only require 3 streaks in a match. So that means that if you get 2 UAVs, 2 counters, or 1 of each, you can complete that by simply doing those 2. That will count. Now, to my knowledge, the stacking of which was fixed so you can no longer complete multiple games worth of this progress completed in one game, but the bonus earn rate still does apply. Everything else, RCXDs, Watchdog Helos, stuff like that, that will still count as 1 streak, but for whatever reason, UAVs and counters do end up counting as 2. Now for this and the HE1 in particular, the best course of action I found was to search around for smaller maps. Subsonic, Babylon, even Nuketown to a degree, but maps like Rewind, Vault, and others are still a bit more troublesome because the maps are larger, which means more travel distance if the streak is on the other side of the map. But on smaller maps, and even better, if you can get remotely close to underneath where that streak is, line it up with the middle of that crosshair just outside of your view where it starts to be a black screen, and then you should be relatively on target. If you're not, make some micro adjustments on future rockets if they are not hitting, and you should be able to get these. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it is something that can be done with relative ease once you do get the hang of it. The baseball bat is another weapon that is an absolute pain. The best ways that I found here for this were hardcore HVT, because you not only get more health, you get a mini map, it's also one hit kills here with the baseball bat. If you go into core, it's going to be something where it's 2 hits for this. If hardcore isn't your jam though, you don't like dying that much, I did find that one of the best possible ways to do this was to just simply have a map that has closer quarters areas of play, and if you can play with friends, to have them give you constant UAVs or harps. That way you know exactly where a player is coming from. By no means is this still going to be an easy thing to do, but it's going to help you way more than trying to run through vault and get 5 kills with a baseball bat before getting killed while you're on at 3 or 4. And then the knife is probably another one that might be problematic, but again, this one you can do in core face-off, more health, and of course, a lot more claustrophobic. You're going to get that lunge, which is definitely nice, so it's not as hard, but still a tedious weapon for sure. So that's your sort of weapons in particular. Your diamond, dark spine, and dark matter challenges really just then come down to, in the regular gun category, a couple of different things. 3 streaks 10 times and 5 streaks 3 times. Diamond, honestly, you can play whatever you want, but just make sure you try and play a bit more passively. Scope out an objective like a hard point or a domination flag or something like that, and you should get these in no time. These do stack, so if you end up going on like a 9 streak, that would count for 3 of those 10 times. They don't have to be individual games, so theoretically, if you go on a 30 streak, you can get all 10 done in 1 game and 1 life. Dark Spine, the triple kills, I would recommend hardcore face-off big time. You're going to die a lot, but again, everything is really condensed and pushed together as opposed to maps where you may not see people all together. Like, even playing hardcore Nuketown, I'd end up having some issues where sometimes there just wouldn't be a third there with that, let alone core where it's going to take more ammunition off your magazine. And then Dark Matter, 5 streaks 3 times. Again, this one you have more freedom to do with it how you will. Hardcore or core, doesn't matter, but just make sure you're scoping out those objectives. And again, if you go on streaks, a simple 15 streak will end up getting you Dark Matter on that, and you can move on to your next weapon. The final notes here for getting Dark Matter, beyond just these sort of tips and recommendations, ultimately I think the biggest hurdle with completing Dark Matter is prestiging and relocking your items in the process. I found that it was, with each prestige, a bit of a logistical challenge to keep things going while also having to think about what I had to complete when relocking things after that prestige, like trying to balance what do I do before I prestige and then after. So what I found I would do is try to complete those higher level weapons first and foremost. The only prestige that I got stuck on was non-prestige 55 to get the AS Val done, and thankfully I don't think that I wasted too much time from going into first prestige because they were only headshots, so no massive XP bonuses or anything like that, and the AS Val was surprisingly very quick and easy to complete. The streaks and triples could all be done in that same span of 55 to 56 and hitting that level cap upon completion into other prestiges, but things like the GPMG, the Goblin, the Compact, and the DM10 kept being thorns in my sides, but after headshots, it lightened up a bit to, again, where you could do those without having to worry about relocking it after you prestiged again. If you can manage that efficiently for yourself, I think you're off to the races. And then finally, when you get to the later rewards, when you have the opportunity to complete Dark Spine and Dark Matter, if you have tokens or have the ability to do them during a double XP weekend, I would highly suggest doing this. Both Dark Spine and Dark Matter reward you with 7,500 XP per challenge completion. So with 33 weapons, you have 66 chances to get an additional 7,500 XP. That's just under 500,000 XP in bonus XP that you wouldn't otherwise be getting while just simply playing through the game. And then throw in the double XP on that, you're just sitting under 1 million XP, which, if I'm not mistaken, can get you almost an entire prestige, like probably 3/4 of the way through a prestige just from those bonus XP challenges. So it is absolutely worth doing and absolutely worth min-maxing if you have the opportunity. Like, if you don't care about completing Dark Matter as quick as possible, you just kind of want the bonuses out of it, highly recommend waiting for another double XP weekend, or if you have tokens, using those. But Anyways, that is dark matter and how to best efficiently use your time and best efficiently use your rewards from what you earn out of that grind to better your experience. So that said, that is where we're gonna wrap it up. Just want to fill you guys in here and give you some tips and heads up on what I found really helped my own personal grind here. So just want to share this with you guys as we do every single year. Have a blast with these kind of things. So hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6, that including more guides, tutorials, tips, and tricks, as well as general coverage like updates and everything, like the big one upcoming with Season 1 here in just about a week's time. But that said, that's going to wrap it up. So thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.